Hello everybody, my name is Zeke and welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be a new reading vlog, and for this one I decided that I wanted to try to have a little more of a thematic through line, if you will, because usually when I film these I don't really think about them at all as I'm doing them, and I just kind of pick books randomly as I go through my week. And so this time I thought I'd put a little more planning into it. So the two books I'm planning on reading throughout this vlog are first, The Woman Destroyed by Simone de Beauvoir, and second, I'm gonna read Black Swans by Eve Babbitt. And my kind of thinking about these two books is that they're both short fiction. Black Swans is a collection of short stories, and The Woman Destroyed is three novella-ish things crammed together, and they both are from the 20th century, both written by women, and so I thought that would just be an interesting experience to read. Also, I just think aesthetically these covers go well together, very well together, and that was just random, not really planned out at all, but I like them together. The pink and green combination and the kind of minimalist design, I'm a big fan. I think they're really cool covers and editions. And so far I've already started The Woman Destroyed, and I read the first story in here. I forget what it's called, I'll look. It's called The Age of Discretion, and it was very sad. So I kind of picked this just because I didn't know a lot about it, but I knew that it was three stories, each following different women, and that they were all sad or depressing in some way, which I'm always looking for new depressing books to read. And so far it has not disappointed. The first story, we follow this woman, and she's a writer, and she's in her 60s, I want to say, and she's really contemplating her age. She's contemplating her relationship with her husband, her relationship with her son, and we really just follow her around as there's some events in her life taking place. We really examine the inside of her mind as she thinks about aging, especially, and kind of the effects on her as an artist and her relationships. And also I think it's interesting, especially her relationship with her son. Just we see him kind of go against her a little bit, and we see her reaction to that, and she kind of has to contemplate how she kind of groomed him to be what she wanted rather than what he wanted, and having to reconcile that with how she's always thought about her relationship. And so I think it's just a really interesting short kind of character study of this woman and her life and her thoughts about aging, and I can't wait to see what's next. I'll try to check in after every story in this whole vlog because there's short stories in the other book too, and I'll try to give each of them a rating and talk about them individually a little bit, but I'd give this first one 5 stars. It was just incredible. Black Swans, I also don't know a ton about, but I just know the author is really cool, and that was my basis for everything. I've read a lot of Joan Didion, and I've often heard Eve Babbitt mentioned in the same kind of vein, just both 20th century writers, or Joan Didion wrote books past into the 21st century, but both writing about experiences in the 20th century in California. I've just heard that mentioned a lot, and this is, I think, 80s and 90s, and it's fiction, but I'm pretty sure it has autobiographical elements, or at least influenced by her life. And so I'm just excited to see what all the buzz is about. And I know this isn't like necessarily her most like well-renowned book ever, but it should be an interesting experience, and I definitely want to pick up some more of her stuff, even if I don't love this, which I have no reason to think I won't like it. We'll just see how it goes. But this won't be like the end-all be-all for her, because I know this isn't like her most popular work, but I'm excited to dig in. So I'm gonna start with continuing on with The Woman Destroyed. I'm gonna try to read tonight. I'll try to read the full second story, and depending on how far I get and how I'm feeling, I might continue on with the third story. I probably won't finish it tonight, but I wanna at least get through the second story, and then I'll check in when I'm done with that, either tonight or sometime tomorrow, just to share my thoughts and see how everything's going. Okay, I just finished the second little story novella in The Woman Destroyed, and this one was definitely a lot different. It was very short, it was only about 30 pages, and this one was definitely much more unique. It's written in a kind of stream of consciousness style that's obviously very overwhelming. I mean, you're just getting words and sentences thrown at you with very little punctuation, with no exclamation, and you're really just inside this main character's mind. And we're basically following this woman. There's not really a plot, we're just literally following her thoughts for like 30 pages, and we learn about her kind of relationship with her family, with her children, one of whom has passed away semi-recently and she's still mourning their death. And we also get insights into her family and her ex-husbands and how she feels about them. I feel like it's really hard for me to kind of sum up my thoughts on this, because I definitely understand what it was trying to do, and I think it really executed that well, but I'm not sure if I actually enjoyed reading it, just because I feel like stream of consciousness is very hard to read, obviously, and then also I don't know that I needed this story to be told that way. But it was definitely a really interesting reading experience, and definitely like nothing I've really ever read before. I'm not gonna really rate this story. I definitely enjoyed the premise and I enjoyed learning about this character. It was just very dense and very hard to understand, which is the point. But I'm not gonna rate it just because I don't really have fully formed thoughts on it, but it was definitely interesting. And there's one more longer form piece of fiction in this kind of collection, and it's like the title story, The Woman Destroyed, and it's about, I think, 100+ pages. So I'm gonna start that now, and we'll see how that goes, and I'll update when I'm done with that one before I start the next book. Okay, so I just finished The Woman Destroyed, both the story itself and the full book, bind up, whatever you want to call it, and I very much enjoyed this last story as well. I think it was very well crafted. This third story was an exploration of this woman as she finds out her husband has been having an affair, and we kind of just follow the breakdown of their relationship as time goes on, and it's written as diary entries from the woman herself, and we really see the spiral and her repeating a lot of the same thoughts over and over, but also things getting worse and worse as they progress. And it's obviously very depressing. It's very depressing subject matter, and it's really just rough to watch her slowly, or not even so slowly, spiral into the depths of despair and just doing anything. And I think a really interesting idea that's presented here is the idea of time. We get a lot of insights into how the main character Monique feels about time as she kind of goes through this process of discovery about their relationship, as she talks to other people and as she kind of contemplates her life with her husband. And she really thinks about time and how they both changed since they first met, and that maybe their relationship broke apart because they have become different people. And it's just a really interesting exploration, and the way it's described is very beautiful, and the writing is incredible. I'm gonna give this 4 stars, and I think I'll give the book, the collection as a whole, 4 stars, just because it was really solid. I think the middle story was definitely the weakest. This was definitely a success, and tomorrow I'll move on to Black Swans. So I've been reading Black Swans, and I've read, I think, about 5 stories so far, and so far I'm really enjoying them. It's really been a mix so far of a few like concept and topic-based stories, and a few just really personal and autobiographical stories, but so far just really enjoying her writing style. I think it's very personal, and I think it's really speaking to the reader, and I also think it has a very intimate feel. She talks about friends she knows, experiences she's had, and you really feel like you're there with her, experiencing these things as they happen, and you really get to know these people, and it just has this energy in all of the stories that I think really comes through, and you really feel like you get the author through her work. And so far I'm just really enjoying it. They really do feel almost like personal essays, just because they are so based on her life and her experience. I'm just excited to see what the other stories hold for me. I think they're all a bit longer than the first few, so I want to see what it looks like in a long form, but so far, very much loving this and can't wait to read more. Okay, so I finished the book. I really love this. I think the whole idea of me having a theme for this video is very funny to me now, because I feel like these really were so different in so many ways. This was depressing, and this was amazing, but it was also atmospheric, and it was very slow, and it was very focused on just these incredibly depressing life events, which was great. But this was very different. We have this perspective that is just filled with so much life, and so much clear, intimate perspective and thoughts. I don't know how to phrase this, but it's kind of hard to explain. I feel like it's so uniquely her own style and her own voice. You really feel like you are inside this author's head. You are understanding her thoughts. She's telling you her thoughts. Even though this is fictionalized, you really understand this perspective. You understand the experiences, and you really feel like you're basically there with them. And I read this super fast just because you're so in the story of every individual short story, and also they all really blend together. I'd say there was like one or two odd ones out, but all the stories basically take place in the same time period. We're 80s, 90s LA, and we have people in her life that show up in multiple stories, and we have places that are just there in multiple stories, and obviously she is the same perspective in every story, so they really blend together. I feel like this could be marketed as a book rather than a short story collection, but I mean, I understand why it is, because they technically are individual stories, but I just think it's really well done. I think my favorite in this collection was called Tangoland. Tangoland, it comes near the middle of the book, and it's kind of weird conceptually, but it's really just about her falling in love with tango dancing, and just the experiences she has because of that, and the community she finds because of that, and it's really interspersed with other parts of her life, and it's all done in such a short amount of time and so compactly, but it's really just, I think, a perfect example of what I like so much about this. It's filled with so much life, such incredible writing, such vivid descriptions, and such clear personality. And I was right going into this. This reminded me so much of Joan Didion. She even references Joan Didion in the last story in this, which I think is another one of my favorites. That's the title story, Black Swans, which is just a really interesting portrayal of jealousy and relationships, and just really well done in that distinctive voice. And I think the only author I've ever read that has somewhat of a similar voice and tone with her writing is Joan Didion. In her nonfiction, her memoirs I've read, The Urban Magical Thinking, really remind me of that, and just the fiction, the ideas she talks about, and the very distinctive writing voice and atmosphere, I think is just so similar in such a good way. And I would 100% highly recommend this. It was just really, really good. I think I'm gonna give it 4.5 stars, really close to a 5. I can't give it a 5 because I think there were a few moments, I think there's like 2 stories I thought were just good, and that's gonna happen in any short story collection because not everything can be perfect. Everything else in here was just so incredible and so worth your time. So that's gonna do it for this very loosely themed video of reading short fiction from women authors in the 20th century. And this was a really great experience for me. I think, well, I don't think it really made sense as a theme because they really are very different. I think they were both good to read back to back just because I wanted to read some shorter things, and they were different enough that I was really still engaged by the time I got to this, and it felt like a breath of fresh air after the heaviness that was this one. And I really loved both of them. They were so unique, and they were so just emotionally impactful, and I really can't wait to read more by Eve Babbitt. I don't really know about her other work, but I will look into it. I really want to pick up Eve's Hollywood, which I think is her first published book and is probably her most popular, so that'll definitely be added and put very high on my TBR. And that's gonna do it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing me enjoy these two incredible works of fiction. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe if you want to. I try to post videos every week. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but I will see you in the next one.